I came to a pretty large philanthropic organization, and I was brought on to help build a new kind of division within the company that was helping young entrepreneurs start their foray into philanthropy. I was there for 6 years, just about, and helped grow that into a multi-million-dollar annual revenue organization. I had 5 under me personally by the time I left. Working with entrepreneurs every day who looked a lot like me was really inspiring. And they're just normal people who happened to have a great idea, stuck with it, and made a huge difference in the world. If I am not on my phone ready to go at all hours of the day, it would drive me insane. Like I would crush myself with anxiety about doing that. So not having that allows me the freedom to focus my time on much higher level activities. Like you have the choice of like, this is not working. I thought it was going to be so great. They were supposed to do everything for me. That is not the case. They give you tools. You got to know how to use them.
Welcome to the Zero to Profitable Franchise Podcast, the best place for you to come to figure out the right franchise to buy and how to get and stay profitable. My name is Tarek Johnson, and I've bought, grown, and sold multiple franchises and got myself free from corporate America, and now I'm on a mission to help you do that too. Here you'll find some of the most in-depth profitable franchise secrets, tangible strategies, and specific mindsets to help you create your dream life through franchising. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Zero to Profitable Franchise Podcast. And today I'm here with Patrick. What's up, man?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. Well, thanks for joining. I know that the life of an entrepreneur is a busy one. You've got 2 young kiddos, 1 6. So I really appreciate you making time.
Absolutely. No, I'm really excited to be here and thrilled that you asked me to come on. This is really, this is going to be really fun.
I agree. Yeah. So you and I really haven't, you've worked with our team to wind up buying, a franchise, Painter1, which your shirt says, but you and I haven't really we've emailed before, but we've never connected live. So I'm excited to learn more about you and your journey and your story live.
Definitely.
Right. Yeah. Right along with everyone else. So I guess just give me a quick, and anyone who winds up listening, a quick 60 seconds on you.
Yeah. Man, where to begin? I have the gift of gab, so getting it to 60 seconds might be a little tough. But like you said, I have 2 little girls, 3 years old and 7 months old. I've been married for almost 6 years. I was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area, relocated to Charlotte, North Carolina in the spring of 2023 with my wife and daughter at the time. Now we have 2. I love all the kind of typical things that dads love: golf, barbecue, hanging out with your kids. I'm very active in my church here in the Charlotte area, and all of those things kind of sum up together have kind of led me down this journey, which we're going to get into, I know. But got my undergrad in health sciences, which I don't think I've ever used that degree a day in my life from James Madison University. Love that school. Probably should have picked a different major, but that's neither here nor there. And so here I am, a small business owner.
Wow. Yeah. And so you are a franchisee with Painter1. What made you choose and settle on Painter1? How did that happen?
Yeah, it was I think a really kind of fortuitous but long but really, really good process. So I knew I had a long career in corporate world. I had the very distinct pleasure of working with a lot of kind of young entrepreneurs. So I was in philanthropy for a long time. I came to a pretty large philanthropic organization, and I was brought on to help build a new kind of division within the company that was helping young entrepreneurs start their foray into philanthropy. So I was the 3rd person on that team. I was there for 6 years, just about, and helped grow that into a multi-million-dollar annual revenue organization. I had 5 under me personally by the time I left. But so that was so fun because we were kind of a startup within the organization, and we had all the backing. So we got to do the fun parts of building a business without having to worry about like admin and finances and stuff like that. They were just like, go do, and we'll take care of the rest, which is really fun. But working with entrepreneurs every day who looked a lot like me was really inspiring. And they're just normal people who happened to have a great idea, stuck with it, and made a huge difference in the world through their company. So I was like, man, this is awesome. I think I could do this. I would love to do this someday. And my family and I moved to Charlotte. The opportunity to do that presented itself with a friend and former colleague. We started a small consulting firm, just the two of us. And after about a year, due to some personal circumstances with the co-founder, we decided to sunset that. So I was at a crossroads here of, do I go back to corporate America, stay there for the next 30 years and retire, or do I lean in all the way into entrepreneurship? And for me, I mean, it was kind of scary at the time. My wife was about to give birth with 3 weeks later to my second daughter. So it just took a lot of fortitude to say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the dive and be an entrepreneur. So at that point, I decided I didn't want to start from scratch. I wanted to buy a business, a small business, because, buying something that exists already out there in the world seemed like a much smoother path than launching something from scratch. So I did a lot of diligence on different companies. I probably looked at a dozen. And then a couple of them ended up being franchises. I went to I'm sure a lot of people know about websites like BizBuySell and LoopNet and all those. That's where I started. And a couple of the ones that I looked at and started, going down the process with were franchises. And I had always thought of franchises like I'm sure so many people you work with do. It's like Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, those types of things. But I didn't, and I'll caveat this, I was only looking at service-based industries because I knew you have a built-in customer base almost all the time, like highs and lows of the economy. You will always have customers, generally speaking, in a service industry. So I was like, franchises, that is so fascinating. So I went down the rabbit hole and came across some of your content on YouTube. And I happened to reach out because I saw a video on a pretty interesting, it was a home care franchise. I wasn't super thrilled about home care franchises, but I was like, let's give this a shot. So then met with your team, was a really exciting, I mean, I would have never been able to get even on Painter1 on my radar without Carista and the team. So I ended up narrowing it down to a couple of franchises, was going through the interview process, the diligent process. To be honest, and I've told the people at Painter1 about this, I wasn't thrilled about becoming a painter. I mean, let's be honest. It's not super sexy. Everybody has had experience with a painter at some point in their life, and most of the time it was like meh, or in some cases not good. But the more I talked to the franchise, the more I learned about them. They checked every box. They really, really did. Some of the franchises that I talked to, and I'm not going to name them, had really high profit potential. They had really great systems and everything in place. I talked to several of the franchises there, and they said, I don't know if I'd do this again. And I was like, interesting. But I interviewed 8 franchise owners with Painter1. Every single one of them said they would do it again. And they thought that this was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And so I think, that really sold it to me, because they just provided something that fits so well to me. As I learned more about the painting industry, I thought, oh, this is a really unique opportunity within painting contractors as a whole, to leverage my existing skills and put them to work in a way that would differentiate me from all the other painters out there in the world. So that's how I settled on Painter1 in a nutshell.
That's such an epic story and breakdown. That was man, very interesting. Wow. So 8 of the franchisees that you talked to really loved it. That's the power of franchisee validation. It's funny. I just finished up. Well, I was a few minutes late to this. I was just finishing up a live stream, and at the end, I went on this whole rant, and I said, "Look, guys, get to franchisee validation as quickly as you can. Like, nothing else matters before that. The rubber meets the road with franchisee validation. So speed through everything else in the beginning part of the process, then slow down once you get to validation. Take your time. Make sure you talk to 5 to 10 people, and you'll know very clearly if it's a good opportunity, if it's not, if people are making money, if they're not, if they're happy, if they're not. It just becomes very clear."
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Cool. So where are you in the journey now? How long have you been in business now? Did you wind up buying a brand new territory with Painter One?
I did. I bought a brand new territory. So I signed my franchise agreement September 1, and I opened doors December 1. So there was a process with financing, that we got it all worked out, but it just took a lot longer than I had wanted it to. I went to my training in late October for a week, and I was hoping that like right after that we'd hit the ground running, but sometimes banks just take a little longer than you want them to. It's fine. So my first full month was December. And so, yeah, I'm 10 and a half weeks in so far. It's going really, really well. I think there are obviously growing pains. I am learning so much. I feel like every day I am getting my butt kicked with the amount that I'm learning. It's really fun. It's really hard, but I'm really optimistic about it.
So our team have looked into a few hundred franchises and put together a list of 5 low-cost franchises that all make $1 million or more and that have a proven track record of both happy and profitable franchisees. So if you have a net worth of at least $150,000 and you want to see if the territory that you want is still available for any of these franchises, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. All right, let's get back to the episode. That's fantastic. I love to hear that. Hold on, there's so many thoughts going in my head and so many questions that I want to ask you. I'm trying to make sure I keep the sequence good. Tell me about your team. What does your team look like today?
So right now it's just me. So I have three main components to my job: sales, project management, and then running the business. I have a fractional EA that I share with several other Painter One franchisees. They have a great
EA is executive assistant.
Yeah. So she handles all of my inbound, all of my leads, most of my follow up, and she is very fluent with our CRM system. So she's integrated right in. Painter One offers this incredible. I would call it an advantage that some other people do, but not to the extent that they did. One of the Painter One franchisees started a company of virtual assistants, and they're all US based, to support Painter One franchises. So rather than hiring an office admin, most companies would like you to hire an office admin off the start. They said, why spend that kind of money when you could potentially share an office admin virtually with three other franchisees and get the same experience? So it's not a call center because they handle inbound, but they also handle all the outbound. They're calling my customers back, they're booking appointments. They're very familiar with painting, the industry as a whole, so they can speak the language. They're trained in our CRM. So that was a huge advantage for me because in service industries, speed to lead is the name of the game. If you don't pick up the phone within 5 minutes, your chances of winning the job go down exponentially. So having this right off the bat has saved me so much, and it's well worth the expense of doing it because I'm so busy. When leads come in, sometimes I can't get to them right away. So this has been really, really helpful for me. So it's me, Emily, part time, and I'm hoping to start bringing on some team members, within the next couple months if all goes well.
Wow, fascinating, man. Doesn't it make it so much better not having to do all the detail work and all the admin stuff?
Yes. I would be starting a business is already stressful, but adding the level of stress that, like, if I am not on my phone ready to go at all hours of the day to get to the customer first, it would drive me insane. Like I would crush myself with anxiety about doing that. So not having that allows me the freedom to focus my time on much higher level activities like making the sale, like keeping up with projects and staying on top of customers, acquiring new customers at like strategic partnerships with property managers and realtors and all those things. It just frees me up for much higher level activities, which as a business owner is where you want to be.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, when I started this, and it wasn't Franchise Empire at this point. It was January 2021. What was it? A few months later, March or April, I hired Maria, and just at that point in time, I could only afford to guarantee her 30 hours a month, right? 30 hours a month. And but my goodness, I mean, it's just a game changer in the things that she was doing and helping with. And even though Maria's in nursing school right now, and she's actually about to be a nurse in the Navy, um, her husband's in the military, but she still is with us and still works with us part time. And actually, now it's funny because I was going to hire a uh, an assistant to help manage my inbox and all that stuff. Uh, I had read a book called "Buy Back Your Time." Have you ever heard of Dan Martell?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so fantastic book. And his thing was, hire an admin right away, have them own your email inbox. And so we're going through this interview process. I'm interviewing people. Maria's the one that's literally, I had her go watch all of Dan's stuff. So there was like all these training webinars. I'm like, Maria, I don't have the time to learn the system and then teach it to someone. So you learn it, and then you're gonna help me hire this person. You're gonna lead the charge on hiring them and teach it. And then we're going through interviewing, interviewing some for like, US based, local, whatever, 40 grand a year or something like that. Some like VAs, that would be, overseas. And then I think I was in a workshop one day and it hit me, and it was like, why don't you just have Maria do it? And it was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And so now she manages all of that, which is, it's been an absolute game changer. But anyways, this is not about me, it's about you. So what's do you guys, so you sub out your work? Is that what you do? How does that work?
Yes. So Painter One does not, as a corporate, does not specify whether you need to hire your own crews, like W-2 employees, or subcontract out your work. They recommend when you start subcontracting out, unless you have kind of the bandwidth to bring on, and hire your own internal painting crew, or, frankly, if you have the finances to ensure that they're paid, whether you have work or not. I use the subcontractor model right now just because I don't have a painting background. It'd be very hard for me to train somebody on painting. I've painted some bedrooms in my house, and I think I did a reasonably good job, but like not to the level of some of the subcontractors that I work with. So I immediately started interviewing subcontractors as soon as I got back from training, to have a nice Rolodex of people that I could call on as soon as the job started coming in. And so we have a really great agreement in place. It's formalized. We have expectations for each of them on what we expect from the work that they do. And for me, I treat them like I would an employee. They are representative of Painter One and of myself as a company. And so, I treat them like I would my own family. Treating people well and helping them achieve their goals is really important to me. So it's been great so far. Of course, there's lots of learning involved and the nuances of how different people work in different projects, but it's been good. Sometimes stressful, but overall really good.
Yeah, I think that'll always be the case. And cool. So you were mentioning funding. That's one of the most popular questions. So how did you wind up funding your franchise?
Yeah, so I used a combination of a HELOC and an SBA loan. So we used a HELOC for our initial franchise fee, just so we could get that taken care of immediately.
And
And
explain what a HELOC is for
Oh,
those who
yeah,
don't know.
a home equity line of credit. So we were fortunate to have some equity in our home, um, and we went through the process of getting that, making that available to us. It was really quick. I mean, we got it in 2-3 weeks,
Who'd you
essentially.
use?
We used a legacy federal credit union. They're based here in North Carolina. I interviewed a couple different companies, banks, credit unions, that sort of thing. They offered the best terms, the best payment plans, that sort of thing. So we went with them. Actually, interestingly enough, and I'm sure a lot of people would relate to this, a lot of the big banks aren't offering HELOCs anymore, which is frustrating because, if you're a lifelong customer of Bank of America or Wells Fargo and you've done business with them for a long time, they're like, yeah, sorry, I can't help you there. Um, we were also fortunate that we were looking for, because again, when you're starting a business, it's really up in the air as to how long you can stretch your savings while you're not getting paid. So we were looking for a HELOC that would allow us to do 100% of the equity in our home. A lot of them will say like 70 to 80% available of the equity. We went with one that did 100 just to give us the maximum
Oh, wow.
lifeline we could. So that way, we could pay the bills and also cover the franchise fee while I was getting up and running. So we did that, complemented or supplemented with an SBA loan.
Wow, pretty cool. I didn't even realize that there were companies that would do 100% loan to value on a HELOC.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice, nice, smart. Yeah, HELOCs are so convenient. It's definitely my preferred funding method.
Absolutely. And I toyed around with the idea of just using, because we had enough to do basically all HELOC and some savings, or like part HELOC, part SBA. My thought process was, if I am going to have to go potentially 6 months without an income, we would really love to have the rest of the HELOC to be able to help if necessary. So that's why we went also with the SBA loan. And then, my plan is to have everything, if all goes well, everything paid off within the next 3 to 4 years, like debt free totally in 3 to 4 years.
That will be incredible.
Yes, that's one of the big goals is I'm willing to take a little bit less home if that means I can get debt free sooner.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you? What part of the DC area did you grow up in?
I grew up in Northern Virginia, so Chantilly, which is kind of right by Fairfax County, right by Dulles Airport.
Did we talk about this?
No, I don't think we have.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah, so I grew up there. My wife and I, when we got married, we lived in Arlington because that's where we worked, in Arlington. And then we bought our first house in Vienna, Virginia, and kind of the natural progression. As you start growing your family, you just keep moving farther and farther out into the suburbs. And then we kind of hit a crossroads where we said, do we want to be here long term, or do we, want to do something else? And we made the plunge to go to Charlotte, where she's originally from.
Nice. Are you a Commanders fan?
I am a Commanders fan. It's a very good
Yes,
season
let's
for us.
go.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the Manassas Woodbridge area.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was, I remember being a Redskins fan back in the day, and just, nothing exciting happened until last year.
30 years of misery until this last season. So only good things from here, right?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I was. It's funny because a buddy of mine texted me. It was like an hour before the Super Bowl started, and was like, "So who are you rooting for?" And I was still torn at that point because I'm like, I don't want to root for the Eagles. I mean, they're our rival, but I equally don't want to see the Chiefs three-peat.
Right,
So
between a rock and a hard place.
yeah. So I bit my lip and I said, the Eagles, just because I want to be able to say next year that we whooped the Super Bowl champs' butts.
Yes. I like that. I'm gonna borrow that if that's okay.
Yeah. Take it. Unfortunately, my wife grew up in Philly, so my wife's an Eagles fan. So she
House
was rubbing it in
divided.
my face all night.
Yeah, man, that's tough.
Yeah, it is. Cool. So, all right. So tell me about it. You mentioned validation earlier, and going through that process. What sort of questions were you asking? And like, what were people telling you that was either making you go, oh no, I'm staying away, or like, oh wow, interesting, okay, I can then I'm feeling more and more comfortable with with this brand.
Yeah. So, and I applied the same questions to all the Painter1 owners that I talked to, all of the other franchise validation calls that I did with other franchise systems. So that way I could get some apples to apples. So I always started out just getting to know owners. What was their background like? Did they come into this system with industry knowledge, or were they like me? Did they have a corporate background? Did they have a service industry background? What was that like? What was the process? How did they come into this? And what was their experience like? Did it match mine so far? Because if they had a very different experience than I did, Okay, maybe we should ask some questions to corporate about what that was like. I asked them how quickly they became profitable. I didn't prod into their numbers exactly, like how much revenue are you doing this year? Most of them gave that to me freely. They were very transparent and said, "Hey, I'm on track to do this year. Last year I did this. I think there's opportunity for this next year. I'm sitting at a whatever net profit," and they were happy to explain why theirs was the way it was. Oh, actually, my net profit is a little lower because I use W-2 employee painters, or I have a lot of employee overhead that will diminish my net profit. Some said, I do subcontractors. I'm at a higher net profit, and I think I can get it even higher because I'm going to trim out some of my overhead expenses. That was great. I asked also, how quickly, I think I mentioned how quickly they turned profitability. I asked what some of the biggest challenges were in getting started. Again, as I'm looking at what my next few months are going to look like, what do I need to be prepared for? I certainly asked everybody, what does your day-to-day look like? Are you semi-absentee? Are you owner-operator? Are you fully absentee? That sort of thing. What does the future look like for you? Where do you see this industry, whether it's painting, whether it's the company, where do you see this going in the next few years? And, I asked a lot about what's the relationship with corporate like, how has that been? And then, of course, I asked them, would you do this again if given the opportunity? And so with Painter1, it was unanimous. Yes, 100% would do it again. Couple of the systems I interviewed, 50% said, no, I wouldn't do it again, that was a huge red flag.
And do you think what I'm curious about is some of those was it more of a franchisor thing where it's like, hey, franchisor is not doing the best thing, or was it like a franchisee thing where it was like maybe they picked the wrong brand and that wasn't a good fit for them? What was the sense you got?
So it's interesting thinking about it now after going through the process and being on the other side, and also learning a lot about what makes franchisees successful. I think the ones who said they wouldn't do it again probably didn't have the best mindset in terms of what's it going to take to be successful. I think because they were part of a very, very well established franchise brand, so I know that there were systems there, and so was it a good fit for them? Maybe, maybe not. But I also know that it takes a lot of really like get your hands dirty, roll up your sleeves kind of attitude to push through that and be successful. I'll put a quick plug in for the book, The Wealthy Franchisee. That was such an incredible read. I read it immediately after I got back from my training, and it just makes so much sense. And I would encourage everybody who's thinking about being a franchisee to read that book. But yeah, I think it was kind of a combination of their mentality and mindset going into this, maybe a little bit about the franchisor. But again, those are usually things that can be overcome. At least in my experience, you can overcome that kind of stuff with the right attitude, the right communication. Some of them said, my territory is really tough. I don't necessarily subscribe to that as much anymore, knowing and having talked to so many successful franchisees or people who run successful companies in what you would think is the worst market of all time, and they're somehow doing it. So I don't love to blame territory as an excuse. So yeah, I think if it boils down to it, it's probably their mindset going into it and kind of what are they willing to do to overcome the obstacles.
Hey, so if you want to figure out if you should buy a franchise and learn the fastest and easiest way to figuring out the best franchise to buy and everything you need to know about the process, then you'll want to go get access to our Franchise Buyers Academy. In our Franchise Buyers Academy, you'll get a behind-the-scenes look into specific franchises and exactly how much money they are making. You'll get simple formulas for finding money-making franchises and a blueprint on how to scale them into a franchise empire that can be sold for a lot of money later on. You'll be able to finally answer the question on, should I buy a franchise? Now you can get access at franchiseempire.com/FBA. Now let's get back to the episode. Yeah, it's a great point. It's one of the weird things about franchising is that I think most people put the onus of success on the franchisor.
That's right.
And again, right in the live stream that I was just doing right before we hopped on here, I went on this rant at the very end of it talking about this exact thing and going, at the end of the day, you are responsible for your success in business. You. And if there's someone who's done it in the franchise system, there's a path there. But what you can't see in the FDD and the numbers is who didn't follow the system, who thought they could do it better their way, who was leaving work at 2 or 3 o'clock early to go whatever, hang out or just be lazy or watch TV or like you can't report those things. And yes, there are plenty of bad franchisors that aren't providing the proper support. But in all things equal, at the end of the day, people are running their own business, and that has a huge factor.
That's right. And I think, I don't know if you're familiar with kind of the stages, the roller coaster life cycle of business ownership, but I think franchisee ownership is the same thing where you go in with uninformed optimism, and then you hit the peak and come down, and you go to informed pessimism, and then when you hit the bottom of that trough, your choice is to either spiral and give up, kind of crash and burn, or you come back up on the other side into informed optimism. And I would say 100%. I went into it where I was like, the franchisor is going to just give me everything I need to be successful. I mean, look at this. They've got systems, and I have all the confidence in corporate because I've talked to them, met with them, and they're so great. And like, I can learn this really quickly and go out and crush it. And that's not the case. Like, there is a lot on you. I mean, you own the business. They're not going to they might tell you, give you guidelines and frameworks and that sort of thing, which are, would certainly give me a leg up. I could never be as far along as I am without the franchisee's system and guidance in painting. But yeah, there's a lot on you that they're never going to be able to help you with, where they can give you some ideas, but when customers aren't beating down the door, well, you got to go out and go find some customers. Okay, what are you going to do that? The franchisee isn't going to deliver customers to you, so you got to go do that. Or they can give you guidance on how to work with difficult customers or subcontractors who you're not seeing eye to eye with. But at the end of the day, again, it's on you. You have to take responsibility for fixing those and smoothing those relationships out. And those are the kind of things that I think can really get you down into that informed pessimism. And then you have the choice of like, this is not working. I thought it was going to be so great. They were supposed to do everything for me. That is not the case. They give you the tools. You got to know how to use them.
100%. I was thinking about the analogy while you're saying that. The thing that popped in my head, although I don't necessarily know that the school system is the best, but like everyone gets the same lecture in class and has the same textbook, but yet there's some students that get A's, some get C's, some get D's, and it's like you guys are experienced that you're receiving the same inputs, but how you perform is very different. I'm curious for you. You mentioned that in the beginning, you first started the journey kind of looking into resales and thinking, hey, let me buy a business. I'm sure you're probably watching some Cody Sanchez or something like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Um, I guess what's your take on that now that you've gone the path of buying a franchise, starting from new? Because I'll preface with like what I tell people is that yeah, buying a resale can be great, but it's also not the best thing since sliced bread. And if depending upon if you haven't led a team, hired, fired people, etc., um, it could be like learning how to drive in a supercar where the margin for error is very slim. And a lot of the times, those service businesses that have crushed it, It's because the owner knew the business inside and out and was very, very involved in the day-to-day of the business. Now they're selling it for a lot of money, but like they worked their tail off for like 15, 20 years. But anyways, I'm curious on your thoughts on that topic.
Yeah. So when I was kind of going through this process, the franchises that came up were resales. I looked at a number of non-franchises too, and it turns out in the price point that I was looking at, the non-franchises, I was essentially buying myself a 60-hour-a-week job, because at the certain price point and this was almost ubiquitous across all of the companies, the owner was in it every day. Say I'll use a landscaping company for an example. The owner was on the back of a mower every day. He had 6 employees with him, but the owner was in the back of a mower, every day. And so not only was he doing that, he was also, when he got home, running the books and doing the marketing. So like that's a 60-hour-a-week job. I didn't want any part of that. So there's a certain threshold, I would say, of what you're willing to spend on a business before you get to that like great turnkey systems level. Franchises get a little bit of a leg up because they come with systems. But a couple of the resales that I looked at, I was intrigued by them because they had built-in customers, they had some revenue, they were cash flow positive, but they were actually pretty young. They were only a couple years in business. And so that was a little bit of a red flag as to, okay, you've been in for maybe 3-4 years. Why get out now before the end of your franchise agreement comes up? And so, again, the owners were really, really heavily in it. I think, maybe they were ready to move on to something different, and they were like, I just don't have the time to devote to the franchise anymore. But yeah, they were in it every day. So for me, I wasn't scared of starting from something from scratch. I'd kind of been there before. So, but I also really like the idea of being able to put my stamp on a business. There's just always risk. There's risk and reward in everything. Risk in buying a resale is, well, you get in there. Again, the financials can only tell you so much. Your interviews can only tell you so much. I mean, what's to say you buy this franchise resale and all the employees quit, and you're like, wow, I am in a business where there are actual customers depending on me. I don't know what I'm doing yet, and now I'm alone. Really, really big, steep learning curve where, when I was starting from scratch with Painter1, I had a little bit of a grace period to work my way in, learn what I was doing, put my stamp on the way I want to run my business. It's just really hard to turn an aircraft carrier around with a business that's already going. And so I think you're right. For the right opportunity, for the right person, a resale can be really, really great. I just didn't see too many in my search that, it hit all the check boxes of the right company, the right amount, the right role for me, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I thought that was a brilliant breakdown. Yeah, and thought process. Um, Tell me about what how was your experience working through ZTPF, the Zero to Profitable Franchise? Did you, and what resources did you utilize?
So I went through the entire library of videos, start to finish, and I took really, really diligent notes, because I would say maybe I would double check with my wife on this, but one of my strengths is admitting when I don't know something. And so I was like, I don't know how to buy a franchise. I don't know even really how franchises work. So this program is going to be crucial for me to getting up to speed, so I don't end up putting a couple $100,000 into something that I'm going to really regret later. So I went through all the courses. Obviously, I worked really closely with Carista, who was an incredible ally and resource for me. I mean, we talked almost every day as we were going through the process. And so not only did I went through that, I listened. Afternoons and evenings are a little tough for me with two little girls, but I always listen to recordings of the weekly calls that in the live streams that you did. Again, just trying to pick up those nuggets. And so I would say it was incredibly valuable for me to get up to speed. And I had a short timeline of when I wanted to make this happen. I started the process in June, and I knew by September 1, I wanted to have a franchise agreement signed. So I had 3 months to get it together. And so I just dove in head first and started absorbing all the content. And that was so helpful, especially as I was going through interview process. I have interviewed and hired many, many people before, but this is a different kind of interview. This is not a hiring interview. This is am I going to be a good fit for your organization? And is this going to help me achieve my goals? Kind of rather than the other way around. Are you going to help me, are you going to help me employee achieve something? So all of that was really incredible. And even like the deep dives on the FDD, were so helpful because I was able to go through, first questions when I talked to a franchisor, you can find FDDs online. They're available. So you can pull them from certain websites. But I was like, okay, I'm going to go through the FDD. I'm going to mark it up in a week. Let's talk about it. And so that way I could go through and knowledgeably speak about, hey, this looks funny to me. I have questions about this. Is this entirely accurate? Like, do I need to spend this much money to get started? Or is this, you got the highs and lows, but realistically, what are other people spending? There's of course stuff that franchisors legally can't talk about, but that really helped me get through that process. And then also just writing down where I wanted to be and what did I want this to look like? What did I want? What were my goals? What was my vision for this? That stuff helped get me laser focused. Even after I opened the doors to the business, it's still, I have it on a little note card here, taped to my monitor. Like, all right, here are the steps. Here's what we're going after every single day. And how are we going to get there as fast as possible?
Man, I love that. How I experience you is just a super diligent person. Just super diligent in the way that you do things, very thorough, like a great student. And not everyone's like that. Are you aware that you're unique?
Yes, I love to learn. I would love to consider myself a lifelong learner. So I get excited about learning new things. I get a little anxiety about learning new things because I want to learn them as quick as possible and like have the growing pains be over with, which is fine. It's like I'm in that phase right now. I'm like, I just want the hard parts. There are always hard parts. I want the mistakes to be done so that I don't have to keep paying for them. But no, I'm not afraid of taking risk. I've always kind of had that high risk tolerance, but I want to make sure it's the right risk, the calculated risk. So I love to be analytical in that sense. The pro forma tutorials and like, I know you hammered doing the pro forma. I had my pro forma done before I walked into training and they were like, nobody does this. Like, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, I've got my 3 years of projections out. I'd love for you to take a look and see if they're accurate. And they were like, there's only one other person who is now the COO of Painter1 who has done a pro forma like this. And he was like high-fiving because he loves spreadsheets. Shout out to Rick. But yeah, so it was great. So, but that stuff, again, it just gives you such a leg up in knowing where you need to go. Like, I couldn't imagine not being able to look back and say, oh my gosh, I'm way off here. Why isn't this working? Check your numbers. Am I way off? Am I on track? Am I on target? Am I ahead of target? No, that sort of stuff. So again, it's that diligence factor and always learning about, okay, this isn't right. Then let's figure out why. Let's ask the right people. Because again, maybe I don't know. Maybe I do. Maybe I spent too much on whatever this month, but that kind of stuff. I'm just always hungry for learning more.
Yeah, I can see that. I have all sorts of kind of book recommendations and stuff that I can make for you that I think you would really enjoy and like.
Please. I love to read. I'm an avid reader, so I love absorbing as much as I can.
Nice. Yeah, I'll send you some by email. Um, I'm curious because you're a sharp guy. You're resourceful, right? Like clearly you'll find the answer if you don't have it, right? So I'm curious. Do you think how do you think your experience would have gone without? Because like part of the program and the system is that it's all in sequential order and it's all right there. So like obviously you could have found the answers ultimately. Might have taken you longer, but like how do you think that helped you? And do you think you would have came to a decision that quickly with that level of confidence without that like packaged in that manner?
No, I don't think so. And I think there was a I wouldn't say a great chance, but there was a decent chance that I might have ended up in the wrong franchise system if I hadn't gone, or I could have purchased a business altogether, not a franchise, that would have really that I would have struggled in. I think one of the things that really drew me to the franchise model is that I love a good system, and I love the idea of like, here's the tools, and you have people to help you implement them. Again, you have to go implement them, but here they are. Follow the steps, go through the process, and there's a really good chance that you're going to be successful. I took that same approach in with the program. So I said, okay, follow the steps, do them. You're probably going to end up in a good place. I 100% believe I did. Painter1 has been so great for me, and I see such a bright future there. And so I think without that, I would have probably floundered around a bit. I wouldn't have known what to ask. I wouldn't have what to ask franchisees. I probably wouldn't have even known about like, yeah, go interview franchise owners. I probably would have been, just talking to corporate the whole time and then been like, great, okay, where do I sign, without having spoken to a single franchisee. That would have been a disaster. Again,
Some
FDDs.
people do that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Some people do that.
FDDs are 60 pages of legal mumbo jumbo, and then you get to the numbers, the item 19 or item 19, right? And there's like, okay, every single item 19 looks different. So what do I make of this? I don't know. Like some of this looks good. Some of this is weird. I don't know how to calculate this really vague item 19. So, I probably just would have been a lot more uninformed, and I probably would have been in for a lot of surprises after being on the hook for however many tens, thousands, hundreds, thousands of dollars after signing your franchise agreement.
Oh man, yeah. Well, I'm glad that it was helpful. So now, with everything that you've known now, and we'll wrap here. Everything that you know now, that you've experienced in your journey, um, if you were looking at someone that is where you were at the very beginning of your journey, just about to start, just not even knowing if franchising is the path, and just like, let me explore this. What advice would you give that person?
I would say to them, this sounds harsh for some people, but I think it's, do you really, like, what do you want out of life? And I firmly believe that entrepreneurship is the path to the American dream. And for some people, the American dream is fine, 9 to 5, 40 hours a week until they turn 65 or 68 or whatever. That's fine. But if you really want to go after the American dream, that I think a lot of people, especially who are like interested, entrepreneur, curious, I would say you should look at franchises, like 100% look at them, because they are such de-risked opportunities. I love the idea. Like I like thinking about like, what are the upsides? What are the downsides? And with a franchise, it's a proven model. Like people are successful. There are very successful franchisees in every system. And so you're already starting with something that or have a really good idea is going to work. So if you're like me, you said, well, I don't know if I have the time, as speaking like the length of time to go get something off the ground from scratch. A franchise is a great way to kind of get the best of both worlds. I would say you need to ask for help. Don't assume you know anything, unless you come from a world where you are doing M&A or diligence. You work for private equity or something, and you know your way around diligencing a company. Go and find somebody who has the experience to help walk you through it. I think that's why having Karista in my corner as advocates who understood me and what I was looking for, and can help me match that up with the right opportunities was amazing. And then I think you can't go into this half-heartedly. Like you have to be willing to go all in to make this work. And I think you talk about it too, like you should be prepared to at some point leave your day job to go into this full time. And I 100% agree that the return comes from you being invested 100% into your business. This is a reflection and an extension of you. So if you're not willing to put all of it all in, maybe don't consider being an entrepreneur, because the successful entrepreneurs are the ones who really do give it their all.
Man, that was epic. Mic drop right there. Mic drop. I love it. Cool, man. Patrick, well, thanks for making the time, man. And again, I know you're extremely busy and not just with the business but with family. So yeah, I really appreciate it. There's going to be a lot of people that will get a lot of value from hearing your story and just your words of wisdom. So yeah, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm more than happy if somebody would just love to chat more about experiences. Feel free to send them my way. I love helping other people. It's part of the reason why I got into a service-based industry. I love to serve others and I love to help them achieve their goals, whether it's with a fresh coat of paint on their house or, in their franchise journey. So this has been such a treat and such an honor. So I'm really grateful for you having me on, Tarek.
Yes, absolutely, man. Hey, before we go, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't already. And the biggest thank you that you could ever give me is to share this episode with someone who you think will benefit. That means that we can share this message with more people and hopefully positively inspire them like we have you. So thank you. And until next time, go build your empire.